Hey there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Cool of you to join in again today. First day for me on a Monday to do a live coding. So my regular schedule was on Wednesdays, but today I'm trying out some new times. So I will also be here on Mondays at this specific point in time. If you have been following around, you know that we have been building a bot using the Microsoft Bot framework. And one of the things that our bot is capable of is authenticating the user. And well, we have included authentication, and it works well, but it currently works only for a particular tenant. And of course, we wanted to enable multi-tenancy so that other people from other organizations can use this same bot. And we do not need to deploy our bots to various tenants, but have a single bot that multiple tenants can use, hence multi-tenancy. So today we're going to look into how to set it up. I have an idea what to do, but not exactly sure yet. And this will be the first time I'm looking into multi-tenancy. I'm using Azure Active Directory, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a learning process, maybe for you, but for me as well. But first, let's take a look at our bot and let's see what the current experience is like with the authentication. All right, follow me. So here we are. I already fired up our trusted Visual Studio instance, and this is where our bot lives. So our bot is living inside an API, and the API is also doing other stuff, but bot is being the biggest part of it at this particular moment. Yeah, so let's fire up the bot, fire up the emulator in the meantime, so that we can test out what our bot looks like. And well, if you've been following along last week, you'll know that there's an issue currently with the emulator, where the flow of authentication is not exactly working as it should. So let's try to see if there's a new version in the meantime. So let's head over to yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Let's see, the bot framework emulator. And we'll go here, and this is the main page for the emulator. Let's go to the releases, and the current release is still 4.5.2, so this is the version that I'm running, and that's also the version with the issue, so there's not a new version yet. So we'll check back here at a later point in time to see if it has been resolved, but for now just leave it as is. Right, so let's open our bot. It's running in background right now, as you can tell. And we have an issue here. Let's see. Just throwing in 401 exception. Audience validation failed for the token. But that's just fine because we're not authenticated yet. So what's up? Let's try it again. 401, 401. What am I missing here? Am I still authenticated? Sometimes my credentials go stale and I have to sign in again. Do we actually end up in our bots? Yes, we do. Okay, so that's fine. To what's pointing to the correct instance of our key vault, so that's not it either. Do we end up in the bots itself? Probably not, but let's check that out. So we should get into the return async. Let's check this out. Still bugging. The emulator is retrying automatically, so that's why endpoint was getting hit a couple of times. What's going on here? Let's try again now. It's not ending up at our bots. And suddenly we see a 200. What's going on here? What could be the issue? Maybe the credentials are invalid. I don't know. That could be. I'll have to check that. So I'll be back in a second. So I'm not showing my screen currently because there's some sensitive data in there. So there's the app ID and app passwords, our configuration, and that looks just fine. I'll navigate to the portal. And let's see. In the key vaults, we have the correct keys set up. It's not the key vaults. Secrets and passwords. Paste in. That's different, so that could be the case. And then perhaps I'm also having the wrong ID. and it was also the case. So let's close this and it up again. In the meantime, let me show my screen again so you can watch with me. So if you set up a new bot config, you can enter this Microsoft App ID and the Microsoft App password, and those need to align with the app that you've created in Azure if you're using a version in Azure. So since I need to make sure that those credentials align. And now we notice that it's started working. Alright, since it was retrying, because it took a little bit too long, I get 2 welcome messages, but that's fine. Alright, if I say anything right now, so for example, hi, it will ask me to log in, or at least it should. There we go. And I can click sign in. It will sign me in automatically using my current account, and I have configured it to, so if you go to the settings of your bot emulator, you can set it to use the sign in verification code, and I've enabled that because otherwise it will not work in this version of the emulator. Now you notice that we got authenticated, so it will retrieve some details of me and say hi back using my name, and the hi intent isn't recognized, but that's fine. Okay, so this is all good and stuff, but let's see, I can reset some data here somewhere, I believe. So let me clear state. Alright. And now let's try to open our bot again. It should ask me to sign in again. It didn't. Log out. So I'm signed out now. So let's log in again. And hopefully I will be able to pick another account. Doesn't appear to. So what's going on? Log in. No, let's try it again. Log in. Come on. Oh, there we go. Does appear to be that the can we close? Let me sign out to be sure. Tab. Open the bot again. Hi. Maybe I need to restart the emulator altogether. This isn't working. So let's close the emulator and start it again. It should ask me to sign in. I'll just open some URL. Hi. Sign in. This is a better one. Okay, so it's now I'm now allowed to sign in, and instead of signing in using my InSpark accounts, let's use a demo account. For example, LMD. Some passwords. Skip for now. Right, and this is where it all breaks down. So it tells me that this is coming from a different identity provider, and that does not exist in our InSpark tenants, and therefore it cannot access this application. So they suggest to add the account as an external user, but that's not something that I want to do. Instead, I want to enable this user to sign in using their own tenant. So sign up, sign in again. That's not what we're gonna do. I'm not sure if this has been checked on the Azure AD side or if this has been checked on our client side, but that's something that we can verify. So one of the things that has been set up in our startup, we have the configuration for, oh no, this is a different Azure AD configuration. It's using the same app, but not the OAuth prompt. Let's see where that lives. Where are you? That's in our main dialog. So this is the OAuth prompt, and the OAuth prompt is using some connection name. Where did we get the connection name from? Good question. Where does this come from? Oh, this is coming from the logout dialog. But this connection name is actually configured in our channels registration. So here we have the channels registration, and it has a settings tab. And over here we have an Azure AD settings. But if I open this up, I will show my secrets again. So let me quickly switch over here, and then let me open it up, and then let me put something in front so that you can follow me along, but won't see the secrets. Right, so here we go. So this is the connection name that you can see here. We have the Azure Active Directory v2 as a service provider. The tenant ID is, oh, there we go. I need to cycle the secrets. I'll do that later afterwards. I guess you saw it now. That's quite a bummer. And we have the tenant ID over here. But the tenant ID is for the InSpark tenant. And it would be interesting to see if we can change this to be the common. Secret isn't very secret at this moment, so hopefully we can use the common tenant ID as well, because common is used for multi-tenancy. So Azure AD common tenants. So there's this page how to sign in any Azure Active Directory user using the multi-tenant application pattern. That's something. And they notice that you need to update to the common endpoint. Here's where they explain that in a single tenant application, sign-in requests are sent to the tenant sign-in endpoint, and that endpoint uses the GUID that I just showed you, this of our tenants. In a multi-tenant application, you don't know upfront what the tenant is, so you can send requests to a tenant's endpoint. Instead, you are send them to a multiplex endpoint, which is common. And I believe there are other multiplex endpoints as well for just organization. I believe common and organization. Was it in the same organization? Pretty common term, of course. Well, you can, I believe it was called organization, so you can also use organization, and that would only allow sign-ins for organization accounts and not for personal accounts. For example, the Microsoft ID. Common is used for any, so in both the organizations as well as the personal accounts. We want to use just organization accounts, but well, common is, well, as the name suggests, common, so we'll use common. Just to be sure. If that works, we can always change it back to organization, but for now I want to keep it simple and in line with most of the samples that are out there. So I've set it up to be common. Now let's see if our authentication still works. So first up, I want to authenticate. Let's reopen using my InSpark accounts, the way that we've done it before. It's probably currently stuck in the, oh, it did work. Let's try it again. Sign in. Not sure if it will remember. No, probably it remembered something. Log out. Make sure to clear the states. Go. I'm still using the incorrect URL, so I have to close the emulator, restart it, open the bot, sign in, and for now let's just use our InSpark accounts to make sure that the original flow still works. Perfect. So that, well, this is what we were expecting, so this works. So let's log out. Oh. Log out. Let's clear states. Sure. Restart the emulator again. And now let's try to sign in using our other tenants. So let's try to sign in as Ellen again. And does typing also work in this case? Alright, so this is the first time I sign in as Ellen. And you'll notice that we end up one step further already. So since this is the first time, I need to consent that the bot will get access to my profile information. So this is the typical consent window that we see here. So it tells me that it will need to sign in and read my profile, and that it can maintain access to the data that I give it access to. If I were to be an administrator for this particular tenant that I'm part of, I can also consent it on behalf of my whole organization, which means that other users that are signing in for the first time do not get presented this consent window and are automatically signed in right away. I am not an administrator of this tenant. Well, Ellen is not an administrator. I do have an administrator account, but I'm not using it because I want to see what the typical end user experience would be like. So I'm not going to consent on behalf of the whole organization. I'm just going to accept these permissions and continue. All right, so it looks like I'm signed in. So if I now paste in this code here, it should be able to tell me who I am, but it looks like that's failing now. Or at least it seems to be stuck on the sign in. I'm not sure what it's currently trying to do. Maybe some exception was thrown. Maybe because they have a little bit of different claim set. I don't know. So let's see. So this is our main dialog, and our main dialog consists of a couple of steps. So the first step is actually the login step, and the login step is beginning the OAuth from dialog, which actually shows the sign in button. If we completed the dialog, so that's basically after we enter that code, it will automatically end this dialog, and since this is a waterfall dialog, it will resume with the next step in our waterfall. And after the login step, the next step in our waterfall is the parse token step. So here we would get this token, and let's see if we actually end up here. So we can close this window because we should be signed in. So let's just try. Might work if we just close and open the bot again. Let's see what happens now. Alright, I need to sign in again, apparently. Alright, this time I should already be signed in. So I should be getting a token response. And I do. So in this case, I get a token which isn't actually a token, it's an ID. So this is a bug that I read about in the GitHub issues of the bot framework emulator. In this case, the token response isn't null, but this isn't a JWT token, so it's failing. We are not able to get out of this probably, so I need to close the emulator and start it again. All right, let's try it again. Hi. I probably need to sign in again. That's right. Let me pick the LND account again. Type in the passwords. Sure, stay signed in. Since this is the second time that I'm signing in, I do not need to consent anymore. I've done that before. Let's paste in this code. And nothing is happening. So why is that? Why is this? enter the validation code. Oops, it gets stuck. That's weird. So in what state is it currently? It looks like it's still stuck in the OAuth prompts dialog. Let's see if we get here. On continue. Text is not about, so we're not interrupting. Continue dialog. This dialog context. Okay, second time it worked. That's a little bit weird. Anyway, we should have a proper token response this time. Right, this looks like a proper token. This token we can parse. And we're mapping the tenant ID claim in this particular case. So now we should have the proper tenant ID. That's very nice. And we'll add the new claims principal that we created based on the claims in the token. So you see that we have, for example, the name of the person. We have a, what's it called, a TID or a tenant ID. Not sure where it is. Should be somewhere. Ah, here it is, all the way to the bottom. So it's the tenant ID, and we need that to be able to distinguish between the tenants. Very nice. So we store user context using the tenant ID. And as you notice, we do have the name here replied back to the user. So it appears now we're able to actually sign in using different tenants. That's quite nice. Sorry, I'm gonna open up a can of soda, so that's what you're about to hear. So this is cool. So we can sign in to our bot using multi-tenancy. That's pretty great. One other thing that I want to ensure, because this is signing in as an end user from the bot side, but we also want to sign in on the API itself, because what we also have is a custom Logic Apps connector So let me open up one of the logic apps that we've created with it. Currently it does not support, or it does support authentication. So currently I'm signed in here using my InSpark account. But I also want to enable this on different tenants, and well, let's see what happens if I were to run this custom connector on a different tenant. And therefore I first need to move over the connector. So therefore I'll download this file, which is basically the complete description of the custom connector, and it's actually an open API specification. That was thinking, already have one. Let's get rid of the old one. It's an open API specification which basically lists the authentication methods and also which actions and triggers the API supports. And this is the easiest way to move it over, because we just go to another tenant. Let me sign into a different profiles for the demo in Spark. Right, so over here I also want to create a company connect resource group. Company connect in West Europe, because that's the closest by. Hi there, I see that we have a viewer online. Thanks for joining in. I would be happy to know who you are, where you're from, and what interests you in following this particular broadcast. And maybe I can explain some stuff or tell a little bit about what we're doing here, or maybe you have some questions that you would like to ask. So feel free to jump in and join in on the fun here. In the meantime, I'll continue migrating this or copying the custom connector over here. So we have this new resource group, and I want to add a custom connector. Here. So company connect, use the existing resource group, create. This will take a few seconds. There it is. Now I can edit it and load the Open API specification, also known as Swagger. There we go. Let's upload an icon to make it more recognizable, and also copy over the color. Well, maybe pick a little bit of a different color. Let's see, we still have a color guide, brand guidelines. That's right. Let's take the pink one so that we can easily recognize it, so that we always know that we are in different tenants. So address is okay. Let's go to the security page. So here we of course want to use the same settings as used on the other tenants. So that was named it Coco already. I think it's still. Oh no, it's in our. It's in the key vault way. So let's details from there. So we want to have this client ID. Just wanted to make sure that that field is protected. And now I can get the app key. In there as well. This is the minimal I want to have, so I can read the user's profile. And what could be the resource URL? Should be able to get it from the original custom connector. Security. And that's the app ID. Not sure if this is going to work, but we'll see. Okay, so we have set up the custom connector. Now let's create a logic app. And try to use the trigger of the custom connector. Test. Nice. It's also created. Let's start with a blank. There it is, company connects. Start dialog trigger. So we need to sign in. And let's use the same account for LMD. Password, and here comes the important stuff. And that's what I was afraid of. The application with identifier was not found in the directory. And this can happen if the application is not installed. And of course, this application is not in the directory because it's in a different directory. And so this starts with 3368. And is that actually the number here? No. Oh, that's over here. It's the client ID. Not sure yet how this is gonna work. Well, let's try to follow the manual and see if we can understand what we need to do. Alright, so update the registration to be multi-tenant. So by default, if you create a web app in Azure AD, they are single tenant. I make multi-tenant by finding the support account types and switch on the authentication pane, your application registration, and set it to accounts in any organizational directory. So I can show you. I've done that just yet. Just that. So if we go to the Active Directory, we go to the app registrations. We have here the Company Connect CocoaBot test. And on the authentication, you scroll down below. I've enabled accounts in any organizational directory, any Azure AD, multi-tenant. So that's that first step. Before an application can be made multi-tenant, Azure AD requires the app ID URI of the application to be globally unique. The app ID URI is one of the ways an application is identified in protocol messages. For a single tenant application, is sufficient for the app ID URI to be unique within the tenant. For a multi-tenant application, must be globally unique, so Azure AD can find the application across all tenants. Global uniqueness is enforced by requiring the app ID URI to have a host name that matches a verified domain of the Azure AD tenant. By default, apps created via the Azure portal have a globally unique ID URI set on app creation, but you can change this value. For example, if the name of your tenant was contoso.microsoft.com, then a valid app ID URI would be. So app ID URI, let's see where we can change that. So it's not authentication. It's not here. PR permissions, neither. Expose an API. Me as an owner. Roles administrators, maybe we'll just need to update it directly in the manifest. So what would be the FI? How do we change that? can also try to see what happens if we just create a new one. It was set to automatically generate a unique ID, but it appears it's not doing that. Let's delete it. Identify a user. Thinking that it. Properties. Right. So it shoots. Is this endpoint? Should be this little thing. So here we could tell it that it should be this. Perhaps we can use this in our custom connector. Therefore, we to reset these secrets. Got that from. Let's add another tab to this to access the key vaults. So we need to have the app key, and we have stored that in key vault, so we can securely copy it. Should put in here our different tenants. Maybe we also need to update the resource URL, but for now let's stick with this. Try it again. With different accounts. Use LMD. Right, invalid resource. So that's not too bad. Maybe we instead of the resource URL. Let's just read on. Let's see what we need to do next. Looks like that worked at least. Okay, so update your code to send requests to common. So instead of using the tenant's name or tenant ID, we're going to use common. Well, we've done that before, and we've set that already in the settings. So here it already says common. Then update your code to handle multiple issuer values, something that we'll get to in a minute. To start off, we need to be able to sign in first without actually going to our code yet. That was it. So now we need to make sure that we can access our resource URL. This is probably going to need to be our client ID, I guess. And since that's now a URL, I need to do it like this. Oh, and again, we need to set the client ID because that gets reset every time. Make a change. Right, and we'll try again. Sign in again using Alan. Right, so now it's failing on the reply URL. Reply URL specified in the request does not match. Yes, we need to configure the correct reply URL. And that's listed here on the bottom. It's actually the same for all, so it's not that specific. So we go over to our app registration and we'll add this redirect URI. So now it does match, or it should at least. We'll go back here and we'll try again. I hope nobody's keeping counts. And ooh. Invalid client secret. Is it? Interesting, I guess. So let's, to be sure, let's just generate a temporary one. Let's just see if that could be an issue. Let's get back here. Put it in. Data connector. try again. This time we are signed in. Same thing.
Bad things don't always happen to bad people. Forces that we face with this unchecked evil. My hair's falling out while he plays with his kid. His loving wife who won't know what he did. Each day I'm getting more distant and shy while he's out there living an untarnished life. Would I be glad if he ceased to exist? No, I'd still be fucked up. I wouldn't care at all. I thought that if I asked nicely, politely, I get a bit quiet in my mind. Writing major big letters in the street, baby. A neon SOS is glowing in the streets, baby. But I never get that lucky. I'm still struggling to pick the pieces up after this bomb. I think I have cracked the code for this pain, baby. Been in the dark, but now I think I finally know. I can see clearly now the karma's lazy. I can see clearly now what I've been chasing. I can see clearly now the time I'm wasting. I can see clearly now the karma's lazy. Neon SOS is glowing in the streets, baby. I finally know. Don't ever come this way. And if you do, I guess I'll tell them what you've done, baby.
Maybe, just maybe, I need to expose an API here. This is a scope. Maybe the resource URL needs to be this little beast. So actually, this maybe, where I'm clicking now. In general, possibly that needs to be this. Query resource URL. Yes. Yeah. Or just like. And again, I need to fill the client secrets. Pretty sure the client secret is fine. It should be something else. Let's try it again. Personal name blah, blah, was not found in tenants. That's correct. So the resource URL definitely needs to be the URL of the application. So we're sure about that. So this needs to be identical to that. No, to this. And we're using this client ID to get access to itself. It's not gonna work, right? So maybe this doesn't need to be the URL, because I believe if you are authenticating for itself, it must be the ID. So the resource URL in this case is going to be the ID, and again we need to copy the app key. Go. Update it again. Let's see what this brings us. Always feels a bit like trial and error, but the resource principal names found in tenants. Maybe we need to sign in again, I'm not sure. Sign out, forget, sign in again using these credentials. No, it's not it. Right. So we have updated the registration to be multi-tenant. We have updated our code to send requests to common. So here it says common. And we have not updated our code yet. I think we're not even getting there. I can try that. I can set up a tunnel to my local host so we can see if I can hit my local API. So over here, the startup, I have created some events that will fire on an authentication attempt. So let's set up a tunnel to this port for a subdomain that I have registered. Do I have an active ng block? It's probably just this little thing. So now I should be able to configure this thing to point to ngblock.io. How did I configure it currently? So the user URL needs to be changed. So it needs to be client ID. Set the client secret again. Let's copy that from the key vault. Let's try this. It's just not working because I'm trying to host the custom connector in a different tenant. Let's see what happens if I use it from Postman. Maybe that was something. I really don't have a clue here, just winging it a little bit. I was expecting that. Yeah. I want this to work, I probably need to add an app here. App registration. Okay. Permissions. I specify my own API here. Nice. There's the graph in here too. Connector service.
It's dark out, I sit in bed, I feel asleep, dark in my eyes. Still awake this late at night, a day done and nothing to write. Some say it's difficult to find.
Alright, I need to do a little bit more reading for this. I feel I'm pretty close, but I'm not sure what the final step is. So I'm able to sign in using the app registration from the other tenants, but it's trying to request an access token, and there it fails with the message that the client secret is invalid. It's kind of strange. Alright, I'm a bit out of ideas for today, so let's leave it for now and read up a little bit on how this is supposed to work and check back later on Wednesday to see if we can finally figure this out. Alright, thanks for following, and hopefully on Wednesday we're gonna figure it out and resolve this. Okay, bye.